Hey everybody, welcome back to Cottonwood Hill Farms. So I've got another project here, another automotive project. I know you guys have seen my 450 that I drive around, that white truck. It's an 04 6.0 450, and most of you guys out there probably, or a lot of you probably know about the 6.0s. They had a lot of issues with those trucks. This one has been studded, it's been deleted, but it's got the typical oil cooler problems. I believe what's happening is one of the O-rings has failed on the oil cooler, and it was leaking through into the coolant because we got oil in the coolant, and then that's been happening for a long time. I've just been pushing it off because it's been running fine. It runs really good, but it has that issue. The other issue it has is, I know with the 03s and the 04s, they had a lot of issues with the main wiring harness, and so this one it's got a short or a break somewhere in the wiring harness, so it drains the battery. And then it had an issue a year ago where it was cutting out when I'd be driving down the road, and it would cut out. It was almost like when it would heat up, but I had a guy fix that temporarily. And so long story short, we're gonna put a new wiring harness on it. It's getting a new oil cooler. Got a cold air intake we're gonna put on it. I also got a high flow oil or a coolant filter from IPR Research, and I'll show you guys this stuff as we put it in. We're gonna put that on there, and the oil cooler on these 6.0s it's kind of a poor design, but it's a really small, fine cooler that can get plugged easy. And so the high flow coolant filter that I got has a manifold, so you can back flush that for maintenance down the road. The other issue that I'm having with it is the Y pipe and the down pipe off of the turbo. One of those is leaking really bad. It's got I've watched some videos on YouTube, and it's got the normal symptoms of the high pitched whine, or it's like a high pitched whine or a whistle that it's got. And I haven't found the problem yet, but I know that's what it is. So anyway, that's what we got going on. We're gonna be working on this. And what I've got is my neighbor has got a shop that he started up, and it's called Beckwith Performance. And so he's helping me do this repair here. So we're over in his shop, and I'm just gonna talk to Andy a little bit here, and we're going to just kind of go over what he does here, because I know he's getting into some of this automotive stuff, but he also does some lawnmower stuff, performance engine type stuff. So anyway, this is Andy. He's my neighbor. He's the mechanic, and we're just going to talk real quick kind of about what he does here. So you got your shop here. You got a lot of capabilities here. I see a CNC machine over here. It looks like you got a lathe. Yeah. Kind of go over some of the stuff and what can you do here, and if anybody's interested in working with you, what can you help them with?
Oh, well, we started this shop fairly recently. It's Beckwith Performance, of course, but I mean, we specialize in high performance small engine builds, which is tailored to like guys that do garden tractor pulling, lawnmower racing, mud boat guys, stuff like that. Anything that has to do with small engines. We do a lot of high performance builds and then we dyno tune, of course, like all that. But a lot of cylinder heads, a lot of block boring, rebuilds, all this. So, I mean, we are fairly set up. We have a CNC mill, lathes, manual mills, hones, and all this stuff. So, I mean, but I've also been doing automotive or semi repairs, and even worked on locomotives for over the years. So I'm fairly knowledgeable with mechanical stuff. That's not an issue. But
you've got what, probably close to 20 years experience in mechanical.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this isn't new. He's been doing this
Yeah. It's nothing new, and I've been doing the engine stuff for over 10 years easily. But we set up the shop so it'd be versatile. So we got a car lift and all this stuff. And so so that way we're versatile and can make everything wide and then narrow it down to whatever.
Sure. Now, are there any, as far as your engines that you work on, that you build parts for, things like that, are there any specific brands that you specialize in, or can you kind of do a wide variety?
It doesn't matter. I do a lot of like Kohler Command engine builds, but I also do Predator 670 V-twins, and then the Briggs & Stratton engines, whether it be the small block or big block. So
sure.
At the end of the day, it doesn't really much matter. I can do them all.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, we appreciate Andy helping us out with this repair, and we're going to go ahead and get started and kind of see where this takes us. So what we got here is from Swag Performance. We ordered a main engine harness, and this is the cold air intake we're going to be putting in too. Nothing fancy. Got some simple green. We got to flush the system or the entire engine out just because the oil that's been in there. And then this is the Y pipe. We're still waiting on the up pipe, but this is the Y pipe that we're going to be installing on there. And this is the oil cooler I went with. It's a Mishimoto, I believe. And I talked to some guys on some forums, and it sounds like the Ford OEM that everybody always tells you to get is having some major issues. It sounds like Ford may have switched manufacturers or something, but I saw tons and tons of negative comments about the Ford oil coolers in the last, I think it was over the last year or so, they've switched manufacturers. And I heard a lot of good things about the Mishimoto, so I decided to go with Mishimoto. And then we've also got an IPR high flow coolant filter that we're going to be putting in. I heard a lot of good things about these as well. Plus this one comes, I got the one with the manifold, so I am able to back flush if I need to. So we got the coolant drained out of this thing. We're filling her up with some Simple Green and some water, and we're gonna flush it. We took the plugs off of the case plugs out, drained it out down there, drained out the radiator, and then now we're gonna run it with some Simple Green and let it flush out. As you can see, that's the coolant. It's definitely got oil in it, although it's not as bad as I was expecting, but it's still got oil in the coolant, so. Well, we got the part of it off. We got the turbo out. We got, yeah, we got all this disconnected. We got the turbo out. We still got to get the intake out, the fuel filter assembly, and the oil filter assembly. But we're making progress. I got a jet. I got to go milk cows. Andy's going to work on this for about another 45 minutes or so, and then we're going to come back. Today is a Friday, so we're going to come back on Monday. But we got the turbo out. That's one of the harder things to do. So anyway, I'll check back in when we get a little bit further. This is the sump for the oil cooler down here. Got that all cleaned out, got the oil out of there. Kind of got this cleaned up a little bit. Got the up pipe and the Y pipe off. So this is the Y pipe, and here's the up pipe, and we're not finding a crack or anything on them, and everything seemed to be sealed. So that's a little bit frustrating. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it was clearly some sort of leak coming up to the turbo. It had to be from the manifold to the turbo, so I haven't quite figured that out yet. I got the oil cooler out, got everything out of the housing. I'm going to clean this off real quick and get this all cleaned up, and then get the new oil cooler, which is right here, get that put on. And I'm still waiting on some parts, so I'm not going to get this done right away, but at least we'll be able to get everything kind of cleaned up and get it ready to be put back together. I also ordered another, this is the fuel injector harness. I ordered a new one of these. This was looking a little bit rough, and I know the electrical on these trucks has had some issues in the past. I will show you, this thing was draining batteries bad, and every time I shut it off, I had to disconnect the batteries, otherwise it'd drain it. We figured out on the right here, you can kind of see on this pigtail, if it'll focus. Anyway, that right there was leaning against the block on the IPR valve, which is right down there, and the IPR valve was facing, the connector was facing down, and this was rubbing right on the block. So we figured that out. That was, and this harness is in horrible shape. Several of the pigtails are, the rubber's breaking off and whatnot, and so I'm glad we figured that out. We're replacing that. So anyway, we're making some headway on this. Still waiting on a few things, but hopefully in another couple days we should have this wrapped up. Well, I got these all taken apart, ran them through the parts washer. Now I'm working on putting the O-rings in them at the moment, and then I'm gonna put this assembly back together. This is the oil filter manifold, I guess you would call it. It goes on top of this, and then the oil cooler obviously mounts inside this. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this put back together. That way it's done and it's ready to go. One of the bolts is stripped on this, this oil cooler housing, so we're just doing a quick helicoil on it. All right, so it's a couple days later. Finally, I had to do is order some more parts. It's actually like a week later. What we did, since we were this far into it, I went ahead and ordered a fuel injector harness. The one on there was looking a little bit rough. These are all my radiator hoses, new degas bottle, and cap. This is my up pipe for the exhaust. And then I also got, let's see here, what else do I got in here? Oh, my IPR valve, which is somewhere in here. That's my turbo gaskets. IPR valve is right here. So anyway, ordered a whole bunch more parts. So this thing's gonna have a whole lot of parts on it when we're done with it. New parts, I should say. We got the Y pipe and the up pipe installed. It's not tightened down yet. Got the new IPR valve in, and now I'm gonna get the cooler and assembly put in. Get that down and the EGR in, and then we'll start putting the fuel injector harness on, and then we'll start threading in the new wiring harness, and then we'll go from there. Guys, so we're moving along on this. Intake is in. We've got the one thing I forgot to do that I just changed out was put the manifold in for the new coolant, high flow coolant filter. All that is removing the this cap off the top of that housing and replacing it with the manifold. You can see right there. One thing we're running into, so I got this wiring harness from Swag Performance, and I'll show you here what we're running into. This happened, there's, can't remember which sensor it is, but this is the second sensor. I believe this is the other crank sensor here, but if you can see, this is incorrect. That's the right harness, but what we're running into is, let me grab the old one here. This is what we're running into here. See how the placement of this, see this little groove right here in the center on the bottom? This is the original one. That groove is off to the right, and this one it's centered, this one it's off to the right, if you can see that. That's super annoying. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna run down and grab wire extractor tool, and we're gonna try and take this plug off and put it on here. And that's the second one we ran into. Everything else is the exact same except for that little groove. And the same thing happened with another another plug over here. Exact same thing happened with this one right here, where these little, right here, these little knobs or whatever you want to call them, they're a little bit further apart on this side. It's right here. These two right here, they're a little bit further apart than the original one, which I don't know where that is right now. But anyway, same thing. We're gonna have to swap that one out too. Super annoying. Anyway, we got the up pipes in, IPR valve switched out. Oh, that's one thing I got to show you guys. So this IPR valve. So this is my IPR valve right here, and you can see that screen got sucked in, and this, I don't know if you can see that boot or whatever, the screen was kind of getting pulled off and then it got sucked up there. So I think that's why it was running like crap. So I'm glad I went ahead and pulled that out to look at it. Anyway, we're hoping to have this finished up today. I got to run down and see if I can grab that wire extractor tool to get these ends switched out, and then really we don't have much. Once we get the wiring harness threaded through, I'm going to get the mount for the filter, for the high flow filter. It's going to get mounted. It's going to get mounted just over here, so I'm going to get that on. And then, like I said, we're gonna finish threading this through, and then once we do that, we'll get the turbo on and start putting everything back together. And I've got all the fluids that we need, so we should have this back together hopefully here in a few hours. Well, I didn't get a bunch of this on video, but as you can see, we got most of the top back on. Got the turbo set in. This is the new wiring harness, and we got the new fuel injector harness in as well. That actually went pretty easy, except for, like I said, those grommets, or the plugs that we had to switch out. That was kind of annoying, but other than that, everything seemed to fit in there all right. Those are the hoses that run over for the high capacity coolant filter. So now we just got to get the fan shroud set back in, and then after that, we got to put some few hoses on the degas bottle, and then the new intake is going to go in. So this is all, it's been pretty smooth so far. Pretty happy with it. We had to change out a couple other of those connectors. This was just super annoying, but like I said, it was the same thing as that other one I showed you. These little, I don't even know what you call them right here, but the bottom side of this, they're just too far apart, and it was the same. I mean, you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 connectors total we had to change out on that. All right, so we got this thing back home, as you can see, and it's in the shop. It's we're still having a little bit of an issue with this. Pretty sure it's fuel related. I'm pretty sure also that this problem existed prior to all the work we just did. It's hard to tell because it had some other issues, but on the way over to Andy's shop, it started acting up on me, and was kind of cutting out a little bit, and it's doing the same thing now. It's just a little bit worse, but like I told him, I think it had several problems, and I think we just isolated the problem that we didn't fix is all we did. And so now it's very apparent because there's not other issues along with it. And so anyway, I think it's fuel related. The first thing I'm gonna do is change the fuel filters, because I haven't changed those, and I was trying to think, I haven't put that many miles on this truck since I bought it, maybe 15,000 I think, or something like that. I don't think it's been 20,000, and I think I've only changed the fuel filters once, which isn't horrible, I guess, no more than I drive it, but they still need to be changed because it's been a few years. So we're going to I'm going to do that right now, and then we're going to kind of go from there. It's also got, I think, there's a chirp in it, and I think the chirp is coming from the exhaust manifold. I think on the passenger side, I think it's got a small leak. So that's probably something in the near future I'm going to do, is manifold gaskets on this. I don't think they're going to be terribly hard to do. You just got to remove the fender wells to get to them. But anyway, so I'm going to put new fuel filters in it, and then we'll take it for a drive and see how it works. Oh, man. I see my cap is cracked just a little bit. I'd say that was pretty dirty. I gotta start doing a better job maintaining these fuel filters. And these are Motorcraft filters. I've heard some really bad things about Motorcraft lately. So far, not so much their filters, but like oil coolers and some of the sensors, and I've just not heard some good things. It sounds like Motorcraft or Ford is starting to outsource to China on a lot of their stuff. So I will, at the end of the video, I'll go over everything that I put on this and where I got it. So I'm under the truck. I think I said passenger side earlier and I misspoke. Here's the other fuel filter. It's on the driver's side. Well, here was the lower one. She's looking a little rough too, so hopefully that helps. I also got that little piece, or I also got that little pigtail plug back in. I'm not sure what that is for. I couldn't quite get it to snap. I got it in there pretty good. I might have to get back out of there and put like zip tie on it or something to help hold it in there, but I'm assuming that's why it came off, is because the lock on it's not snapping closed. So I'm gonna get it back under there, get a zip tie put on that so that holds it closed, and then we're gonna start it back up and see if that makes a difference. The other thing I should mention, so this is the fuel issue, like you guys saw, you know, it's surging and then it's got a really rough idle. The idle only happens after the surge. So if I start it up, it runs fine. And like yesterday, I drove it all the way home from Council Bluffs, and it ran fine. But I didn't get on it either. Going up any hills, I kept it under 3,000 RPMs. But when I get on it and it gets over 3,000 RPMs, that's when the surge starts. And then once the surge starts, then the idle's horrible too. And then once you shut it off, start it back up, then it runs fine. So kind of confusing on that. It's also not throwing any codes. And I've had 2 different code readers on there just to make sure my code reader wasn't bad. And it's throwing no codes. So that's what makes me think maybe it's a fuel filter issue. Because of that, I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's just what I'm thinking. As you can see, it's still doing the sputter or the stutter, whatever you want to call it, surge. And it's only in like 3rd and 4th gear up above like 2,500 RPMs. Really strange. I'm gonna have to get some second opinions on this because I'm not real sure where to go from here. The rough idle did get taken care of. It does not idle rough anymore. That was obviously the fuel filters. They were kind of rough. I got to do a better job changing those. But other than that, this thing actually is running great. It's running just as good as it ever has. So I just need to get that stutter figured out, which I'm leaning towards maybe an injector, possibly. I'm not real sure. Like I said, I got to get a little help on that. But so anyway, just a quick recap of what I did to this. The original issue was there was oil in the coolant and it was pushing coolant out of the degas bottle. So it had a bad oil cooler. And then it had some other issues also with sensors and things like that. So what I did was I put a oil cooler in it. I used a Mishimoto, I think that's how you pronounce it. I did not go with the Ford OEM oil coolers. I have not heard a lot of good things about Ford parts lately. Filters and stuff I think are still okay, but as far as the parts, it sounds like they're all coming out of China and it sounds like they're all failing. So I did not go with any Ford parts on this. I used the Mishimoto oil cooler. We put the wire loom, or the main engine wiring harness, came from Swag Performance. And other than the issues with the clamps or the plugs, they didn't match up. I had to transfer, I think, 4 of those from the old harness to the new harness. That really wasn't that big of a deal, but it was still kind of a pain in the butt. Other than that, it worked fine. New fuel injector harness, which came from Thoroughbred diesel. And then I put the high flow coolant filter from IPR Research on. So I'm kind of excited to see how that works out. I've heard really good things about that. And then we also did the new cold air intake, which I believe I got that from Swag Performance as well. It's nothing fancy, it's just a regular cold air intake. And I think that was it. So, well, and then the fuel filters, obviously. So that was what we had on this repair. Hopefully things hold up, and I'll keep you guys updated in some of the next few videos. Hopefully I can figure out the surge and we can go from there. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. As always, we appreciate the support. If you know anybody that might like our content, go ahead and share it with them. We'd appreciate that. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all at Cottonwood Hill Farms. I hope you guys are all doing well out there. You guys take care. We will see you in the next one.